Welcome! It's me, Dr. Kopcha, and I want to go through some of the highlights of the research design activity where you review the literature that's related to your research question and research topic for EDIT 6900. I do want to point out that there's a lot of details in here. I'm going to hit the highlights, but you are encouraged to read through it once you've watched the video and just get a sense of some of the finer details that I may have missed in the video. Okay. So I want to give you a broad overview of how a literature review works for me, and I find this method to work really well. I got it from my advisor when I was in a doctoral student, and it works pretty well. What he had us do was find 5 articles on our topic, and good articles, not just the first 5 articles, but there's a little, maybe I found 8 articles and picked 5 out of that because some of them were from stronger journals and more related to what I thought I was looking for. You read those 5 articles and try and make sense of them, and then you're ready to read another 5 articles and do the same thing. And those 5 articles, the second 5 articles, should have a more refined focus and a refined set of keywords driving your search and be even more strongly related to your research question. So that way, the first 5, you're getting a sense of what's going on and how the academic community is talking about your topic. And then when you move on to the next 5, you really can solidify what it is that you're doing and focus it in on the most relevant literature. This research design activity is those first 5. As you move into the final project, you'll add those other 5 to it. But for right now, we're focusing on 5. 4 of those 5 have to have empirical data, meaning you can't have all literature reviews or theoretical papers about why we think games are good for learning. 4 of them have to have collected some kind of data, quantitative or qualitative, and analyzed it about why games might be good for learning. And you can have 1 theoretical and make sense of those 5. And that's what you're going to do here. It's 5, 4 empirical, make sense of them. Start trying to articulate an argument for your research and your research question based on those 5. All right? And what's going to happen is you're going to have questions. You're not going to know what to do with those questions. And that's what when you move into the next 5 articles, you can try and start really answering some of those, right? The focus of this activity, though, is on structure, not content. I want you getting used to creating an argument, not summarizing 5 articles. So I do not want to see paragraph 1, article 1 did this. Paragraph 2, article 2 did this. Paragraph 3, article 3 did this. I want your voice to come through. So back to the games and learning example, right? If you're going to make the argument that we need to study kids playing Minecraft and how it affects their motivation levels and their attitudes towards mathematics, let's say, or science, then you want to start pretty broadly. You want to make some statements about why is that important? Well, STEM education is important in our country. Talk about that. The things you read should support your ideas. It should not be the other way around. You should not be presenting a summary of an article and then saying, so I think it means this. Here's what I'm thinking. Say that first. I'm thinking that STEM is pretty important. Here are some articles that explain why. I'm thinking that games are one key to improving STEM outcomes in schools. Here are some articles that say why. What we don't know is, do boys and girls see it the same way? Here are some articles that ask that question. Here's what we know, here's what we don't know. So it's you first, articles support you, not the other way around. If you do that, you're going to see this will be a fun activity, and you get to make a statement about something and back it up. And I think that's fun too. You'll see that there's an example. Again, I encourage you to look at that when you have a second, because that's an example I've included. It is structured that way. It's that person's voice, references support it. Then that person makes another statement, and the references support it. And the entire thing is an argument about why that student wanted to study ELL in libraries, in a media center in particular. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. You're going to take a shot at summarizing those 5 articles with your voice coming first. If you need to think of it, structurally, each paragraph should start with a statement by you. Try that. That's a good goal. You make a statement and then use articles to back that statement up. Now, what if you want to make a statement and you don't have the article to back it up? At this stage, I'm fine with you just picking some kind of an actor or actress name and making a fake reference, or noting I'm still looking for a reference to support this. Okay? Because sometimes it's confusing to use fake names. And I'm fine if in the notes you just say, I know I need a reference for this, I just don't have it yet. But this is my thinking, this is the logic I'm trying to follow. So let's go back to the game example. Let's say you know that you want to dig up some studies that compare boy and girl perspectives on games, video games, in learning. You just haven't found them yet. That's what you say. Right? So you make your statement and then say, I know I need some articles, I'm still looking for them. Because you've only read 5 articles so far. And that's totally okay. It's about your thinking and your logic that needs to come through. I've got some suggestions for how to structure this so that it flows really nicely. Rewrite your research question into a statement. Okay? It has to guide the logic. Let's see. Outline first. Right? Try and come up with some kind of a topical outline, or even statement by statement. What's the flow of the logic? Well, a lot of times we study learning from games. What's not studied as much is learning from designing games, and that can be really motivating and engaging. Here's what some of those theories say about that. So I want to do a study that looks at what happens not only when you play games, but design them yourselves and share them in a classroom, right? And so you can see there's like a boom, 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 boom logic to that. The opening paragraph is generally a big, wide statement situating the importance of that. Why games and learning? Well, because kids are bored in school a lot of times. It can be very disconnecting for them, and yet they play hundreds of hours of video games. Right? So there's that broad context. Therefore, I want to look at that, because learning from games, and now you've got the meat of your review, and that goes back up to the outline that you've created. Learning from games, learning from designing games, that kind of thing. I've got tons of examples of statements that you want to try mimicking. Okay? Do not copy them word for word. Do not copy what other people have said word for word. But look at the structure. Look at the way this flows. Research on learning from games is ambiguous at best, contradicting at worst. One principle is this. Maybe there's a reference for that. Then explain it. Who says that that's a principle? Right? And cite that person. Again, if you don't know the person, but you know what you want to say, you just note it. You can do that as a comment off to the side, or you can even put it underneath and just say, in parentheses, I know I need to support this with an article, I just don't have it yet. That's fine. So lots of examples about how to break this down. I really encourage you to read through this, because it kind of shows you some of my own thinking and other experts' thinking about how to structure this thing. It is a give and take. Okay? It is a give and take. As you're writing, you're going to learn more about what to say and how to say it. As you rewrite, you'll learn more, and back and forth and back and forth. You still only have 5 articles, so there's things you don't know yet, and that's okay. You just have to be okay with that discomfort. And work with those 5 articles. I promise you'll get more articles as you move into the final project. One last thing, I do want APA, American Psychological Association references, and I've got some examples in here. But if you've never been to the OWL at Purdue, you can just do a quick search for OWL. I'll do it down here. OWL Purdue APA citation. I don't know why it's not showing you. And I'll move this over so you can see a reference list set of instructions, APA formatting guide, and I'm going to pull this down. It is OWL, like woohoo, OWL. And you can click on the OWL at Purdue, and it will give you also. I have to move this, so bear with me. It will give you all sorts of information about general APA guidelines and that sort of thing. And if you look over at this, you can see under general format, there's a lot of subtopics. In-text citing, the basics, authors, you won't have endnotes for the most part. Reference list, basic rules, and then again, it'll take you through some of the basic rules. Every once in a while, it will even give you an example, okay, of what it should look like. And sometimes that's more helpful, like the sample paper. You might just be a person that learns by looking, right? And so you can see, as I scroll through, they've got in-text citations. They've got good use of acronyms and how to structure that. So that way they don't have to keep writing the same phrase over and over. They can refer to it as CMC or FTF for face-to-face interactions, and that saves on words. Hint, hint. And then as I scroll all the way down, you can see good APA here. And one trick that I have not shared with you yet, if you go to Google Scholar, I'm going to type that in here, scholar.google.com, and I'm just going to pick the first article that comes up because this is just a demonstration. No, that was bad. I apologize, I shouldn't have done that. Should not have picked the first one. Let's say you're looking for virtual reality. What you'll notice is for each of these references, there is a little quote. If you click on that, it will show you the APA citation. I'll move this over now. And you can take this and copy it and paste it into your document. But you still have to be careful because sometimes there's problems with these. So for example, communication is not capitalized here. It should be. Sometimes they'll capitalize everything in the title of the article. It shouldn't be. Just the first should be capitalized, and then there's debate about whether after a colon should be capitalized. Okay? But for the most part, this is a great way to pull the meat of a reference in, and then you can double check it for any issues or that sort of thing. Okay? That is probably the longest introduction to the RDA that I've got here, but it's a big one. And I think you're going to do great with it. I can't wait to read your summaries and where you're at with 5 articles. And as we move into the final project, you're going to add 5 more articles to it, and it's just going to get better, and you're going to get better and more refined perspective on the thing that you want to study. You're going to start talking like an academic. Imagine that. Okay, have a good one.